Hi everyone, welcome back to the Property Finance Podcast, and today I want to talk about why using a broker that only knows one lender is actually more dangerous than not using a broker at all. And the reason being is because if you go to a broker that only deals with one lender, you are going to find yourself siloed into something that is probably not appropriate for you at all. And you'll hear terms like whole of market and that kind of thing in terms of brokers talking about, we have access to the whole of market, we deal with every single lender on the market. Now, you've got to be careful to kind of fall between the two, because a broker who is whole of market, great, we're all in development finance and bridging finance, we're all whole of market. There's no restrictions on who we can use for bridging or development. So every broker is whole of market when it comes to development and bridging in theory. Now, what will tend to happen is if you go to a broker who utilizes whole of market, you'll tend to find that your deal gets shotgunned out to 200 lenders and you'll be absolutely inundated with information. You may not end up with the best deal because you're just going to be hurled every single set of terms. If you go to a broker who only uses one lender, you might find yourself, again, not in the best position because you're going to a broker who's only using one lender who probably isn't fit for purpose, who potentially they're using a bridging lender for development finance, which again, I mean, I've done so many podcast episodes about this, about why you shouldn't use a bridging lender for development finance because it's just so not fit for purpose. But you kind of want that sweet spot in the middle of a broker, and this is where we try and sit, which is a broker that has access to everyone, but who utilizes their knowledge, their experience, their ability to kind of limit that down to maybe 10 or 20 lenders who they build really, really good relationships with, who kind of cover all bases and who they make sure you're still getting the best possible deal. So it shouldn't be driven by commissions. It shouldn't be driven by necessarily the best rate. It shouldn't necessarily be driven by the best fees. It's got to be driven by relationship and realistically, when shit hits the fan, which lender is going to stand by you and make sure that you're okay and that you're not going to be repossessed immediately or have 5% late payment fees and all this kind of thing. Which lender is going to stand by you and make sure you get through that and protect you if needs be. So going to that broker who only deals with one lender, chances are that lender's probably aggressive, they're not fit for purpose, everything else. You're not going to be in a safe space there. Going to the broker who's whole of market and is utilizing whole of market, yes, okay, they're going out to a lot of lenders, but you're not being presented with necessarily the best options because there's just going to be such an abundance of information coming back. So it's about using a broker who filters through those lenders. So we still utilize whole of market. By all means, we still go to all 200 lenders, but we know which 10 or 20 of them are going to do the deal. So you come to us, you say, right, I've got a development. I'm a first-time developer. I've got no money. I've got no assets. I've got no experience, blah, blah, blah. Right, okay, we don't need to go to 200 lenders. We know that there's only 3 or 4 lenders that are going to deal with you. You come to us and you say, I'm experienced. I've got money. I've got assets. I've got experience. Right, okay. We're not going to go to all 200 lenders because we know that there are 3 or 4 who, again, are the cheapest, best lenders for you in that situation. And it's about filtering that through rather than you coming to me and going, I've got money, experience, deal, everything else. Oh, right, okay, this is our one lender that we deal with. They're 12%. They're not going to look after you if things go wrong. It's just a dangerous position for you to be in. So that broker that just deals with one lender, they're not worth the time. You might as well not use a broker. But make sure when you are going to a broker that they are whole of market, but filtered whole of market and have enough experience, ability, skill to be able to filter those 200 lenders down to a good 10 or 20 who they know are going to deliver and who they've got good relationships with and that you're protected come the end of it. And make sure you're asking the right questions, not just what are the fees, not just what's the commission, all that kind of thing. Check what are their default rates, what are their default fees, what is their approach to default, what is their approach to extensions, what is their approach to if something just goes wrong in general, what is their approach to lending out more money if there's a cost overrun. It's just a case of going through all of that and making sure, right, this lender might be cheaper than this lender, but this lender that's more expensive is going to look after me and make sure that I get through this deal as unscathed as possible. Yes, I might pay a bit more interest, but I'm protected if something goes wrong. You may decide to go for the cheaper rate because you've got the confidence that you can deliver. Great, perfect. We want you to be on the cheapest possible option as well. But it's just about weighing up those options. And that's where a really good broker comes in and can look after that. So there are a few things to look out for. Hopefully that's been helpful. These little kind of mini podcasts are just here to kind of give you a bit of knowledge of some of the stuff that's out there and some of the questions that you should be asking. And I love it when people come to me after the podcast as well and say to me, "Oh, I've watched this podcast on this bit. Here are a couple of questions I've got for you." And it's like, great, you've watched it, you've digested it, you've come to me with those questions. And I think that's really, really important. So yeah, I love it when people come back to me and go, "Here are some questions I've got for you," because it shows that people are kind of enjoying this content. So thank you very much for listening. If you've got any questions, obviously do fire them over. But otherwise, if you've enjoyed the podcast, share, like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And I'll catch you on the next one.